Hey guys, welcome to our SoulFam Podcast, where I interview space holders from all over the world. I'm your host. My name is Karolina, and I am the manifestation mentor and the connection catalyst. Today on the show, we have Monika Mazur, the life and fitness mentor and podcaster. Welcome to the show, Monika. How are you doing?
Yay, I'm so excited to be here. Oh, the energy is so good. I'm already so pumped.
Me too. I have a lot of fun even before we started recording this. Already like really good vibes. So I'm super excited for this conversation. And it's just so good to connect with other Polish people who are into the same stuff like mindset and healthy lifestyle. And it's just really warming up my heart that we can speak, to a fellow Polish lady.
I love it. And also the fact that you are in Spain, I'm in the United States, but we actually kind of even connect back home, meaning we live on the same train line. So it's like small world, small world.
Exactly. So I would love to start with a little bit of your story. Like, how did you become the life and fitness mentor? And what has led you to this path? Were you always interested in it? Or did something in your life happen that you were suddenly like, okay, this is my path. This is my soul's purpose, my mission here on earth?
This is a long story. I'll try to make it as short as possible. So back in the day, like 20 years ago, I wanted to study psychology. And I was a lousy student because I hated school. I didn't pay attention. I loved certain things, but I didn't like certain things. So I loved Polish and English and writing and psychology, history, but I hated math and sciences because I'm not like you, right? Because I was like, I can't pay attention to all this stuff. This is boring to me. Therefore, I didn't get to go to that college. So I ended up studying journalism and communication, and that was kind of boring. And I thought to myself, well, I always had this thing that I love to see positive in anything. So you get dumped and there's something positive in it, literally. So that's what happened to me. My college boyfriend left me. And within a week, I had my papers all situated to come to America to be an au pair, to be a nanny. And my plan back then, that was 2004, was to learn English and come back to Poland and do whatever I was to do there. But I came here and I thought, I really love it here. I'm in Boston. I can go to Harvard for English classes. It's so cool. I'm going to stay. And it was very hard because my parents didn't like for me to be here. So they completely cut me off. So I went from living at home with mom and dad to being by myself, taking care of three little kids, earning very little money. When I was in Poland, I thought, oh, that's such a great money. But I was thinking Polish money. I was converting this. In here, that was nothing. And so I had to do a lot of gymnastics, mental and physical, in order to make it. It was very, very, very hard at first. However, what I really, really value is freedom. Until this day, freedom is my highest value. So I loved the fact that I could do, like, I was able to do anything I wanted. So I went to college, I worked, I got my American citizenship. It took obviously many years, but it was completely up to my desires and my work. And now we know manifesting. I said something, I did something. My friend from back then, we just recorded a podcast on my podcast because it was 100th episode. And she said, you always did everything you wanted. You wanted something, you went and you got it. You had the work ethic, you did whatever needed to be done. And it's true. And back then it was about stupid things, like dating or traveling somewhere. But it continued through my life. And I think the big thing was, well, three things: gratitude, being thankful, obviously, for everything you're getting, good and bad, and never really looking for the bad, but always looking for the good in every situation, and kind of going with the flow, not going with the flow as in just allowing anything to happen to you, but not resisting what was happening. So if you were left by someone, okay, cool. So that was not meant to be. And so as a nanny, then by accident, I discovered personal training and fitness. I was just going to the gym socially, and I was like, oh, they don't really have women to help other women. And I was like, I really want to fill this gap. I wanted to hire a trainer for myself. They didn't have any women. So I was like, all right, let me go to school. I hired one guy. And I was like, this is not how things should be done. I don't like this. And so it's like, I'm going to go to school and become a trainer. So then I did that. And then I shortly worked for the same place where I was being trained, but I was like, oh, that's not for me. So I found a place with only women. And I worked there for 7 years. And it was so cool to practice everything that I knew on pregnant women and postnatal, lots of brides. But I also always value having goals for myself. It's when you're in the industry where you're helping people, you can get lost in helping others and forget about your own self, your own goals, whether mind, body, soul, life. And so I started competing in bodybuilding. And so that was something that I would have my own coach. I would have my own diet training programs. Someone was watching over me as I was helping, 40 other people. And that continued for a few years. And then it kind of got boring, everything. You probably can relate to living in many different places, right? What's your threshold? Like a year, 2 years? For me, it's 3. It's like 3 years, I gotta go. Let's do something new. It's not challenging anymore. So I left Boston, I moved to Connecticut. And long story short, I opened my own fitness studio. And that was really rewarding because I had to do everything from scratch. I had to do all the administrative things and taxes and all these, and it was challenging. But within a couple of years, boom, here we go, we're running it. And at the point of like 2.5 years, 2019, I was like, oh, this is so repetitive and I want to do something next. It's like, okay. But I was really resisting, being a business coach for fitness professionals. I was like, I don't want to just like teach numbers. I didn't ever want to go to corporate America and be a manager of a gym or a fitness director, because I was like, I'm going to be just grilling young trainers to make money for the gym. Like, where is the human thing in this? I don't like this. So I did not want to be a fitness coach. However, just like you said before we got on, my goal for my intention for 2020, before I knew what 2020 is going to look like, was to expand online. I had no idea that the world was going to turn upside down. And so that's exactly what happened. In 2020, I ended up closing happily my fitness studio and moving everything online. And that was one of those examples of like something bad, but I took it as an opportunity to just expand online and close my studio and, be surrounded by like-minded people from all over the world and not just from a little town here. And yeah, and so that's how we got here. And then online, working, I was like, I love talking, let's do podcasts. And so that was that. And so it's my work kind of combines it was like a ladder of learning for myself, from immigrating, dealing with fitness, and learning all about helping other women in the bodybuilding, and then running the fitness studio. And so dealing with difficult situations in life, doing lots of personal development with Landmark, both in New York and Boston. And so it was like levels of upgrading for me. And so now my work, it kind of encompasses all of it, because I've created a life for myself right now that I absolutely love. I have freedom to be here with you on random Thursday during the day. I just came back from Poland. I can go there and visit my family every quarter. That's what I decided to do. I was like, you know what? I want to be the kind of person who goes and sees her family often. So that's what I do. I own a home. I own a car. I have 3 dogs. I love my life. And I am so deeply now connected with like how, what, and the way it was created, that I just want to help others to create this, because I see a lot of folks who resonate with me are my old self. So type A, high achievers, driven people who have a lot to show, but they are stressed and kind of like, balls to the wall. Like they're so exhausted. They're not balanced. So on the outside, it looks like they have it all, but inside they're kind of dead. And that was me. And so I'm here to help them and show them that you can have all of it without the stress, without the anxiety, without the overwhelm, without the craziness. That things can be much simpler, So that's how we got here. It was a lot of good and bad, and pretty and ugly things that happened to me, and all that accumulated, I can share it now and help others, because I've gone through a lot of things before I got here.
Absolutely. And we always can help the most the people that are on the same path as we did. And we really can lead someone through the struggles if we have gone through them ourselves, right? Because otherwise, how could we even really relate? How could we have empathy, like a real understanding of people, if we haven't gone through any problems, right? So then you are a better example even, because you're like, okay, I was in the deep shithole, but now I'm good. So it's even better, right? It's even better to have the perspective in a way, because like then you can really relate to people and you can know what to do exactly to get them out of there. So that's really inspiring. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. Spot on. You're so right. Because when I was in a lot of the dark holes, people who tried to help me, they tried to help me one way. And now looking back, I'm like, I know why that wasn't effective. And I know, seeing people in dark holes now, how to speak to them, because I know what resonated with me then. Like, pushing someone by telling them, hey, you could do better than this. That is not the way to go when someone is like down, deep down,
Absolutely not.
Yeah. So of course everyone is different, but just like you said, having gone through tough things, it just allows you to see things from a different perspective. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I would love to talk about this competition part because, you're in the area of fitness, which is quite competitive, I would say. And you said that you were even like preparing to do a competition and so on. And I feel like it could be sometimes quite unhealthy to be in these vibes like of comparison and like low self-esteem because this person is better. And if I don't trade enough, then I'm never going to get there and all these things, right? So how did you deal with this and how do you lead also your clients to deal with the competition, because it's kind of like a hard thing to go through when you're always like achieving and you always want to get better, but also like you need to be healthy about it because otherwise you're going to end up in a not a good place mentally, I guess.
I so agree with you. So, it's funny because a lot of the folks who I met through the competition world were actually really not happy in life. And that was a way, it was like an escape. Some people escape to food and they eat too much and then they're overweight. And some people escape to drinking or doing drugs. And some people escape into exercise. And even though on the outside it might look very healthy to people, it is very obsessive. It is very, it's not healthy because it's so extreme, extreme as in you're extremely regimented with food, you're extremely regimented with exercise, and your entire life revolves around it. Now, for me at that time, it really worked because I was working a lot, I was building the life. So I was out of the nanny world, if you will, and I was finally like working, making money, and feeling stable financially in the United States. And it was, after 5 or 6 years of living here. The American dream is real, but it doesn't happen overnight. It takes like you give yourself 15 years, like literally. And so it was good because it allowed me to just have like a tunnel vision and focus for me at that time. And I learned a ton about, training and eating. However, the realization that I had was literally on stage because I competed many times. I have awards standing behind me, plastic awards with all the placards and stuff. I remember so vividly standing on the stage, tiny little green, army green bikini, tiny, like the size, and, ripped abs, butt up there, oh, glammed up, tanned, and thinking to myself, like, oh, that's it. It's like, okay, let's go home now. And let's just, because it was not fulfilling. It's, people would look at you and it's just like, all right, well, I got this amazing body, but it didn't solve my life issues. It didn't solve the fact that I'm so petrified to speak with people. It didn't solve my self-esteem. It didn't solve my confidence. It didn't solve anything. It just solved the fact that I can go around in a bikini and not self-conscious about my body. But as a human being, I'm still self-conscious about a list of things. And competing really allowed me to seek personal development because I was like, well, that is not it. Having the best body ever around is not it. I can be the best looking trainer and coach. And even though clients all want to work with me and marketing is very easy, my life isn't better because of this. In fact, dating was very tough because everyone was intimidated. It was like, I'm in shape, but not in that kind of shape. Or, I couldn't do anything because I was always dieting and drinking water. And, I couldn't, back then it was just like not even the thing to go to a restaurant and have like a simple meal because it was like, no, that's just not something I do. Now with clients, and that was a great experience because with clients, it showed me that there is amongst the folks like my former self, there is this tendency for all or nothing, to all or nothing. And it doesn't matter in what area of life you'll see them, whether food or training or work and business, either they do everything or they do nothing, right? So they either eat spot on or they eat whatever, or they train 6 days a week for 2 hours a day, or they do nothing. And so they bounce up and down. And I work with opera singers, doctors, lawyers, therapists, teachers, business owners. So it's a variety of folks, and sometimes married with kids, sometimes not married, and people like yourself who travel and live in other places, every year in another city. Lots of folks, but the common denominator is that they all are super, super driven, and they just want to do whatever the heck they want to do, and however the heck they want to do it, and sometimes at the expense of like this lack of balance, and perfect balance doesn't exist. You're never going to have like 10% for my work and 10% for my life and 10% for my relationship. But like maintaining some sort of balance is important because otherwise you're just going to be exhausted and frustrated and never really moving forward. And so with my method, I teach them that you can go, between like 80 and 20, and you don't have to be 0 and 100. And you can, when your life, for example, when it comes to fitness, right? If you have a great job or business and it works, you have a good relationship, you have a good living situation, yeah, you can go to the 80% max because you can go to the gym 6 days a week and you can eat like spot on food. But maybe your kid is sick, or maybe you're moved, or maybe you went through a breakup or a divorce. Now you're going at like 30%. And you can exercise once a week or maybe twice a week, but not ditching it completely. So you're still taking care of yourself. And so that's like the big message really with the training, where this 100% and this competition mindset is so unhealthy, and I stay away from it. I coached a few women to compete over time, but now I wouldn't, just because I don't want to feature it, because it is so extreme and so obsessive and just unhealthy, and it's not sustainable, it's not livable. I'm all about like, let's make this for life, longevity, right? That's what matters.
Yeah, that's a beautiful perspective that you've shared. Thanks a lot for that. And so how would you go about it? Because, for some people, the competition actually makes them kind of want to do things. And for some people, if they kind of like compare themselves, they will be like, oh, this is what drives me. This is how I can, just be more motivated to do what I'm doing. So if it was all up to you, if the whole world just, did exactly as you say, like, how would you go about it to actually make it healthy for people who are motivated by the competition, but also not to make everyone else not enough, like feel not enough because they just are not the best or whatever? Or would it be maybe based on just competing with where you were and just like comparing yourself to yourself? Or, how would you go about it? It feels all up to you.
Well, so I think this is a great question, Karolina, because a lot of people are so distracted with comparing themselves. And it's not even in the fitness industry or fitness, when it comes to your fitness or my fitness, but people in business or in social media who have more followers, who have got more certifications and more clients, more money, more, better abs, better butt. I always go back to like, this is not your path. This is not your life. This is not your story. You are you. Let's focus on you, because it happens to the best of us, even us, maybe not, I don't know about you, because I don't want to put things in your mind, but even to me, when I'm like, I'm so fulfilled and so happy and everything is going well, but then I'll see something and have this comparison mode turn on and be like, oh, but I should be over there. I should be doing, no, it's no one else has your story. No one else has your body. No one else has your experiences. So like, there's no point. It's so irrelevant. It's like comparing grass and apples and tomatoes. Like, everything is different. There's just no point. And so it's not productive. It's not effective. There's no purpose, and if someone is motivated by comparison, it's compare yourself to your best. Where were you at your best? What can we do? And with the goals, I always focus on action-based goals and not, on anything else. So what can you do? Because that's what you're in control of that. So if someone wants to exercise and lose 10 pounds, we're not focusing on 10 pounds, but it's like, how are we actually, I always give people the example of learning Polish, because they're like, if you came to me to learn Polish, I'm not going to ask you, do you speak Polish already? Do you speak Polish already? Do you speak Polish already? In the context of like, are you 10 pounds lighter already? Are you 10 pounds lighter already? I'm going to ask you, did you do your homework? Did you do your reading? Did you do your writing? Did you do your speaking? And same thing with exercise. Did you eat the food that you said you would? Did you do your cardio? Did you do your flexibility? Did you lift? And, so that way people are focused on the daily actions and creating habits, winning habits, instead of being obsessed about arriving at their destination. Because like I said, being on stage with ripped abs, this was not a fulfilling destination to be at, even though it seemed so awesome before I got there. So yeah.
I love the Polish language comparison, because Polish is one of the most difficult languages ever, I would say. Yep. I absolutely love this metaphor.
Not a chance someone is learning that.
It is really, really cool. I love it. And yeah, that's what I try to do. Like, of course, I caught myself sometimes comparing myself to other people, but then I try to be like, okay, so what could I do, like with my best and my body and my whatever conditions that I've had? Am I doing my best in this situation? And if I am, then I have nothing to really, to be against within myself. But if I don't, then okay, maybe I can improve. And it's always about improving ourselves and growing and expanding as us, not as anyone else, really. So I love what you said. Thank you so much. It is really, really amazing. And so I have a question that actually my mom was creative to ask, and I think it's really important, because about the fitness when we are aging, like, how we can kind of keep up with our body, obviously not being in the same shape as we were like 10 years ago or whatever, 20 years ago. And obviously it's like easier when you're younger, but then you still want to keep up and you still want to move your body because it affects your psyche amazingly, right? And we also can touch upon that, like how it actually works if you're not obsessed, but if you're just good, right? You're just moving your body and it's affecting your whole mindset, really. So like, what do we do when, or like maybe you have some recommendations for people who are like, you know, with this attitude, like, oh yeah, come on, I'm aging now, I can't do all these exercises anymore. Or like, you know, do you have any advice for people to just keep it going when they are aging? And are there any, just tips that you find useful when you work with maybe older people?
So for a year, this is a great question, and I'm sure your mom is not even within the age bracket, but for a year I worked with elderly. And elderly, I mean, all the way to 92 years old. So most of my clients were 80, in their late 70s and in their 80s. And it was brilliant. Yeah, it was really, so it was like in between of living in Boston and working with, you know, competing and working with like so ripped women, all the best looking people, my clients. And then I moved to Connecticut. And for a year, I had a job where I worked with elderly. It was a gym. And it was so amazing to see that, first of all, the people who live that long all do something physical. So they, you know, here in America, they either play golf or they, you know, spend half of the year in Florida and half of the year somewhere up north when it's colder, so they can be in the warm climate when it's cold, so they can still be outside and do things. They came to the gym religiously every morning, Monday through Friday, and either did swimming or classes, or they had trainers like myself. And it was, to me, it was amazing to see because I had developed by that time already my method of training, you know, creating an hourglass figure and posture and small waist and booty, all the things. And I literally just stepped it down a little bit for these folks. And it was mind blowing to see that they got results. They moved better. They, just like you said, their mental health was through the roof. And it was so cool to see that it didn't matter that someone was 70 or 80. And I remember one client asked me once, he was like, you know, what's the point now? Aren't we all going down? And I'm like, we all are going down. You know, he was like 80 years old and he looked like Santa Claus. He was funny. He was funny. He asked me, you know, we're all going down. And I said, everyone's going down. You know, everyone is aging. Everyone is going to die one day. However, the quality of your life is what matters. And so, you know, at that age, obviously becomes about the quality of your life, about what are you able to do? How can you move around? And not so much about looking good, but also they also want to feel comfortable with themselves and confident. And so it was really cool to see that they were able to do so much with this. I was able with them to do so much with the same principles. And so it's really something that you want to maintain for your entire life. And there's never a point, and it applies also for pregnant women too. You know, I have so many pregnant clients right now, even though I've never had kids and I don't have a desire to have kids, but so many of them train, they get pregnant, train throughout their whole pregnancy, have the baby, come back a month later, they train, and it's just something their bodies want and need. And some of the clients laugh because some of them I've worked with for 10, 12 years straight, no break, and they will laugh that some people go to therapy, some people go to church, and some people come and do BBM with Monika. I don't want to take away from church or therapy, but we really do something right with the movement because, you know, when you feel good daily through movement, your life is just better. It doesn't have to be extreme. It doesn't have to be a lot. It can be as simple as a walk one day, yoga one day, weights one day. But having a plan and executing it really allows you to feel like in control of the basic thing in your life, which is your health and your body. You know, now I do more. I do life coaching. I do fitness business mentoring. But the fitness is always a foundation because if you are not well, you cannot do anything. You cannot go and be an engineer or doctor or lawyer. You cannot have a family. You cannot do anything. If you're not healthy and well, body, mind, and soul, you can't. And so that's like the absolute foundation. And so, you know, in my mind, there's no special thing for elderly folks. It's just like wherever the person is, let's meet them where they are and create something that works for them right now that they can sustain and continue doing that because the quality, it was so mind-blowing to see that all these old folks, and I'm talking all the way, there was this grandma, she was 92, and she was like, you know, I have these pains in my legs, and turn out she would come to the gym every single day and walking on the maximum incline on the, she was 92, on the maximum incline on the treadmill, for half an hour every day. And I was like, you have these pains because you're so sore and tight from doing this. There was nothing wrong with her. But, these folks just maintain their youth by exercising. And it was so inspiring to see. And I forever will remember this. And it was such a good experience because it showed me that nobody who was me, that's another thing too. Nobody who was like angry and mean and just like, not happy, these people don't exist at that age either. So either their physical health kills them or their mental, like being not a happy, not a positive person. All of them were blissful, cheerful, and people who really took care of themselves all around. And so I would say to your mom, there's nothing wrong with aging. She can take on whatever she's enjoying. So walking, biking, maybe yoga, maybe some little weights. Combo of all is important to not forget, doing a little weights, doing a little flexibility, doing a little cardio. So there's like something for the heart, something for the muscles, something for the flexibility. But anyone is capable and there's no upper limits to, when you have to stop.
Beautiful. I mean, yeah, with my mom, she actually looks like she's my age. So she trains Zumba for the last like 10 years, I think, or maybe even 15 right now. So we always go Zumba dancing together when we are in Szczecin, in our hometown, at least like 3 times a week. So yeah, we really love fitness. We love moving our body. So I'm sure that she's not worried about that. But it's just a very interesting question, right? Because like some people would be like, oh no, I'm not gonna be so mobile when I'm like older. But then when you hear of like 92 years old person on a treadmill in the gym, it's like, come on, like you can do it too, right? It's just about your priorities, your values, and how you set up your life. If you care about your fitness and health enough to be so healthy, to be actually able to walk out of your home, because it's, as you said, it's not only physical, it's like emotional, it's mental, it's spiritual, it's all the levels that we need to take care of in order to be like empowered really and energized even in that age. That's why I'm not really worried, because like I do yoga, I do Zumba, I love dancing and moving the body and like hiking and swimming and so on. And I'm sure that we're going to inspire all the people who listen to do this as well. But that's about the elder people. So what about the young people? Because like nowadays, so many young people just sit in front of the computer and it's just so hard for them to just encourage them to do anything with their body, right? Because they just prefer to play games or just prefer to be on social media. So how would you go about it to kind of encourage children? Like what could parents do to be like, hey, come on, let's try this, let's try that, like to just get them going? Because otherwise we're just going to have a society of like, I don't know, lunatics at some point, because everyone is just going to be in the social media or just in a virtual world rather than in a normal world, right?
What I wanted to bring up is a story from back in the day in my fitness studio with one of my clients. She was an overweight lady. Her husband was overweight, and they also had an overweight daughter. And so she was always asking advice how to deal with the daughter. And, one day she comes, she's like, Monika, I don't understand. Like, she's just like not listening to me. I was like, okay, bring her over. We'll talk to her. So I talked to her. She was 13 at the time. And, she was like, they were really like worried about her health because she was at risk for heart attack and stroke at like 13 years old. And so I talked to the little girl and I said, listen, like, do you know why they are asking you to exercise? And she said, oh, but I don't really, because they didn't tell her. The parents didn't want to scare her, which I thought that was an appropriate place to quote unquote scare her so that she knew the severity of the situation. And I was like, well, I asked her about her favorite food. She told me all the junk food like Cheetos, Doritos, ice cream, and all the things that people eat here. And long story short, after the conversation, I said, listen, you're a big kid. The thing is that you don't want to, because she was like, I don't like going to the doctor. They always tell me to lose weight. I was like, you see, if you're going to continue with these favorite foods, I totally get it. They're so yummy, but they will cause you trouble and you're going to end up going to the doctor a lot. Now, you can choose to eat other things and then you're going to be healthy and you're not going to have to worry about the doctors and them telling you to lose weight. And I'm like, listen, you're a big kid. You don't have to, mom and dad, you can make your own decisions. Long story short, after the conversation, I think 5-6 weeks, the girl ended up losing a bunch of weight. And I was almost determined to take her to my house for the summer. I'm not even kidding. I said to the mom, I was like, give me this girl for the summertime to my house, because I was like, we'll show her how we live and eat and how people who, are not obsessed, but who are, I have dogs, I walk, we're active, we're exercising in the gym or in the garage when we have our equipment. And so, but I said, the thing is that we can accomplish amazing things over the summer with her living with me. but she's going to go back to you, and she's going to go back to your habits. And so the thing is that we can't make anyone do anything, and people will do things based on our example, and kids are the first ones to watch us, you know. And it was so interesting because then the mom came, she's like, I don't understand why she listened to you, but when I'm talking to her, she doesn't listen to me. I'm like, you really don't understand? I was like, well, would you listen to me if I didn't live this life? Would you hire me if I was 100 pounds overweight and ate donuts for breakfast and show them? And you wouldn't, because that wouldn't be. And also, would I tell you to do something that I'm not doing? That'd be hypocritical. I would not be authentic telling you do X, Y, Z if I'm not doing it. So you telling your daughter don't eat bad food, but you still have bad food hidden from her because that's for you and for your husband. What? It's not going to happen. And so I think it all comes down to the example that we set for kids. And I love, love, love this because so many of my clients are moms and they bring their kids to class. We just had a class where three of them were pregnant. Two were exercising literally with the kids. And, a bunch of them are moms of multiple kids. And like I said, I'm not a mom. I don't want to be a mom, but I'm so committed to empowering women to have that freedom to still exercise, to still take care of themselves and set this example for their kids. We didn't have this example growing up. However, I have to say, in Poland, we do eat very healthy. I just came back from there and I was shocked to see my nephew eat the way they ate, snacks, raspberries and apples and carrots. Here it would be chips and Coca-Cola and popcorn, and it's completely different. So we got back from home, we got that eating habits that are going a long way. We're not more likely to go to McDonald's. Like we're not very likely to go to McDonald's, right? So I feel like you have to just set the example for the kid. You cannot ask them to do something if you're not doing it, whether that be exercise or whether that be nutrition, or being a good person if you're not. It's really all the example that we set for them. So if we are not doing anything, they're not gonna magically wake up and do something. So we cannot blame them. And I feel like there's a huge responsibility in being a parent these days because kids are so surrounded by junk food, the technology, and so it's even harder than before. But also, I feel like it's possible if someone really cares. There's this quote like, "Would you die for your child? But would you live healthy for them?" Yes, you would die for them, but would you live healthy for them?
Wow, that's a powerful quote. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, and I resonate with it so much because you need to be an example, because then your energy is just different. If you just say something from the intellectual point, like, oh, you should do this because of this and that, but you don't embody it, you don't walk your talk, it's like no one is going to listen to you. And it's like that with everything, as you said, right? And with kids especially, because they are very sensitive. They take everything in as a sponge, especially when they are young. So if they just watch you do something, or if they just feel your emotions, or if they feel you emotionally eating, for example, or if they see that you're not coping with stuff well, then they are going to do the same. So sorry. So if you care about your fitness and about your health and about your habits and so on, and if you take apple as a snack rather than chips, then they will also see it. And as you practice and as you do some fitness or whatever, move your body, your energy also changes. So you become more happy. So then the kid is like, okay, so if I go for a run, I see mom going for a run and then feeling better. So then if I go for a run, I'm also going to feel better, right? So it's just like sinking in with whatever energy brings and the mental state that the parents or the caregivers represent, which is really great. So I love this example with this teenage girl. It's awesome. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Anytime. I love stories.
I love stories as well. And especially that it's so important, I feel, to talk about this now, because really, I feel like nowadays kids will just walk like this with their head down, and they will have this thing on the back when we only sit with the computer and with the phone. It's really bad. I feel like and it's not only about fitness and not moving the body, just sitting in front of the screens, but it's also about connection and about all the other things, right? Where we could just do fitness, we can dance together. I feel like in the tribes or in the times that we were more living in communities, we were moving our bodies, we were playing drums, we were dancing together, and we were I don't know, hunting together or whatever people did. But now we're just in separate houses and we're just doing our own thing and not even moving sometimes from a house, like at all. And so I feel like these conversations are so important, because this is what we need to aim for. We need to just get the energy going, right? Move the body. And from my perspective, of maybe it's not as like grounded as yours, because you're, you know, a fitness mentor or life mentor, but from my perspective, we have all these channels of energy, and if they get stuck with emotions, like we need to move these emotions through ourselves, and like not.
100%.
Yeah, and it's like sometimes even when you get a massage, someone is just pressing on the point and you cry, or you're angry, or emotions are stored in the body. So then when you move your body, you can actually do emotional release as well. And that's what I sometimes do when I get pissed off or something happens. And then I go for Zumba. I'm like, okay, I set an intention that on this Zumba, I'm going to like scream so much, and I'm just going to move my body so much that this anger will just go away. And I kid you not, every time it works. If I'm like emotional and then I set an intention to release emotions when I move my body, it always works. When I do yoga or when I do Zumba or whatever else it is, it helps. So that's another just perspective for people to try, to just really be intentional. Like, okay, I want to move my body with the intention to get to this specific feeling or to release this specific feeling. And for me, it has worked miracles. So have you had similar experiences to this, like with emotions?
We are way too similar. It's so funny. We are just way too similar. So I have a treadmill under my desk, and ever since I got it, someone was asking me, you know, you're working so much. Is it because of the weather is not very nice here now? And I got it for the winter time, because in the summer, I will literally between appointments, I'll have my phone and I walk after classes. And so the moving emotion through your body, I have podcasts about it. I talk about it on Instagram, because even the good emotions getting stuck in your body are not good. Like when I'm finished teaching a class and I'm so pumped, this energy of this pumped celebration in my mind would be like, let's eat now a lot, because that's what I'm used to doing as a kid, right? Celebration, eating. So what I do is go for a walk, so I can be at nothing, at sad, just my constant energy, so that I can go and eat the way I should be eating, the way I want to, not hyped up with that. I was sharing with someone that having a treadmill and walking all day, for the most part, allows me to just be happier. And someone's like, oh, how many pounds did you lose? And how? Because I'm not getting anything stuck in getting pissed off, because I'm always moving. And so when I do 10 miles a day or 8 miles a day, there's just no way. And so in the summertime, I'll be outside, but here I'll be, now I'll be inside. And it's so awesome to see that nothing gets stuck. Good, bad, ugly, no one can get you mad, because it's just constantly moving. And I almost kind of picture it as like, as the blood is flowing, the emotions are flowing. So if you have everything stagnant, all the fluids in your body, the emotions are also going to be stagnant. And when you're moving, everything is moving, you're sweating, it's just going out. And it's, for some people might be, like you said, yelling and dancing in Zumba. For some people, it might be just yoga and being quiet, but still moving. For some, it might be a long walk or hike, but just definitely moving and not just being stagnant, because it's so, you can see when people don't practice it, because they become heavy, and you can see it and feel it and experience it. And it doesn't have anything to do with heavy physically on a scale, but you can see it in the way they carry themselves, that things are just stuck to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And that actually reminds me of a conversation I've had with my best friends today, with my ex-partner. And he told me that he just discovered this new thing that he does, that in the morning, he's like, okay, universe or whatever, I let my divine intelligence to move me in a way that I want to feel like 80% of this and 20% of this and 10% of this and 5% of this. And then he just allows his body to move however it does. And then just lets everything unfold. And he's like, I kid you not, like, this is exactly how I'm feeling. Like, I set this intention, I moved my body to move some energy, like just intuitively, I let it move however it does. And then this is fulfilled, like, and I'm just like, yeah, it's good. And he calls it like a emotional recipe or emotion recipe. Like, what is your recipe for today? Like, what would you like to experience? What would you like to feel? And then when you move this stagnant energy, you can actually like let things flow and let the parts of your body to be awakened that actually make you feel like this, right? So it's actually great that it's coming up now, because I just literally had this conversation with him today. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try this as well, like do some ecstatic dance in the morning and set the intention. So just wanted to share this for anyone who listens, wants to try it.
Do you have any of your own, like either before bedtime or in the morning, habits or routines like that for yourself?
For me, yes. For me, usually I start with meditation, and then I do
Mm-hmm.
some like supplements, because I drink some like apple cider vinegar with lemon and some like water and some other supplements, depends, like probiotics or some other stuff that I'm currently like exchanging. It usually varies depending on what I'm focused on in my body. And then I usually do some movements like yoga, maybe like varies, depends. Like if I'm on my period, like right now, I'm just like, okay, 10 minutes and I'm done. But if I'm like empowered, I do 30, 40 minutes. And then I do dancing to just like not only be still, but also just like pump up my energy, and then shower, and then I move on with my day. And then in the evening, I might do also like a little meditation, relaxation, breathing, and things like that. But I also am not really hard on myself, because I used to be really like harsh and just particular about the way that I do things. And I realized that if I'm too much in this like controlling masculine energy, that's actually not serving me very well. So if I'm, for example, on my period, like yesterday I had a really bad period day, and I'm like, okay, I'm just not doing anything. I'm just like literally laying down in bed and resting, because if I pushed myself to do anything at all, that would be beyond my boundaries of what I can handle, what my body really needs. So although I have my routine, I'm also quite flexible, because I really do my best to listen to my body, what I need in the moment and in the day, rather than being so rigid, because I just found that for me, it doesn't serve. I know that for people it might, but for me, I was just too rigid and too controlling, and it actually created more tension and resistance within me, rather than if I'm like having a routine, but also being like flowy with it, if you know what I mean.
I think it's thank you so much for sharing. I think it's such a great approach, even like when it comes to food, because when someone is too rigid, what usually happens with exercise or food, they rebel against it by either binging or whatever else is it that they're doing, or, training and not doing anything. But when you allow for what you're doing, you choose what's right for you at the moment and ultimately accumulate it. Like if you're looking at the big picture, your results, your happiness, and your mental and physical state is so much better because it's like it comes within you, it's aligned with you, and it's not something you're forcing yourself to do. You can force yourself to do something that anyone can, but like what's the purpose there, so that's awesome. That's so great.
Yeah, absolutely. And it creates kind of like a parts conflict, because a part of you wants to be healthy and wants to have a routine, but then another part of you actually wants freedom and flow and be more just flexible with everything. And I feel like everyone has these two parts of themselves, like more feminine or like flowy and like let's just go with the flow, do whatever, and then masculine of like let's be rigid, let's go for it, and so on. And if you like, for example, I wanted to eat only vegan food, but I was vegetarian at the point when I met my ex-partner and my dear friend Ricky that I spoke to today. I told you about him already. And then he was vegan. And I was like, okay, so how am I in alignment with being vegan? I was like, okay, I'm going to do one vegetarian day a month, because that was in alignment at that time for me. And like after 3 or 4 months, I didn't even need this day. But if I didn't choose this day, okay, I'm leaving this gap for myself, I probably would rebel against it and I would probably be inconsistent with it. But because I gave myself time to actually fulfill my needs, at some point it just wasn't even a need anymore. But I'm sure that if I told myself, no, I can't do that anymore, I would be just like, no, of course I can. I'm going to show you that I can, like to myself, right? Because there's the internal part. So just, and for everyone, it's different, but it's good to have this practice of either journaling or like really feeling into these two sides of you, and then asking, okay, the part of me that wants to have a routine, like where is the flexibility? Like, how can I make it more, tailored towards the other part that wants to have no routine, for example. And like if we say, okay, I have routine, let's say 5 days a week, and then 2 days I'm off, for example. And for someone it could be like, yeah, 1 day a month, or for someone it could be like something completely else, right? So just find your own way of how to balance both of these perspectives, because it's going to be very unique to you, but really try to find this balance, because otherwise it's just going to bring resistance and internal rebellion, and then the effect is going to be the opposite to what you really intend.
Exactly. And and then like not only that, but the frustration then later on, right? Because it's like you're frustrated as you're doing it, and then when you quote unquote fail, you're even more frustrated, like, oh, this didn't work. I was frustrated giving up all the things that I wanted to do or wanted to eat or wanted to be in order to achieve this goal, but look, I didn't even achieve it. So it's like accumulated frustration, just not a good way to be.
Absolutely. And it can bring some physical issues as well, because like I've literally spoke to someone, because I've had some UTI, like urinary tract infection, the other day, and I spoke to actually a lady today, a psychic medium, and she told me, look, it's because you have like the urine, there is a flow, and then you're like pushing so hard, like you're trying too hard, for example, to heal yourself, but then there is a part of it that wants to just flow, but you're not letting it flow because you're at the same time pushing too hard, but also like contracting because this part of you is like doesn't want to do as much. So it's really relevant. And so these kind of approaches can result in literally physical issues, as it has resulted within me. And now at least I know what to do and which direction to go to just not have it anymore, right? Because like all the physical issues have also causes that are emotional, that are stressful. So don't be like me, don't have UTI, just avoid it. Just don't push too hard. Push exactly as you feel like it's aligned, also for the part of you that wants to just go with the flow and be like, you know, all free. And it's just a real life example of how that can affect us, right? And it's not like severe for me, but you know, it's been for a while. And now that I know what to do about it, today I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna be in my flow. I'm not gonna do any healing. I'm not gonna push myself at all. I'm just gonna do an amazing podcast, and you know, and that's it. So
Well, that's
yeah,
fun.
this is
That's
just
it.
a live example.
It's so funny, Karolina. Thank you for sharing this because it made me think about one thing, and that is, I've never studied any of this, but from my like common sense perspective, you know, when we get like how stress is so dangerous to the body accumulated over time, how, you know, every single one of us has a response in the body when we stress, right? Some people have a headache, some people have a stomach ache, some people have intestine issues, and so some people have chest pains. And if you're constantly causing yourself that over time, this is where health issues come. So maybe this is the person who has Alzheimer's or something with their brain, right? If they have the headaches, this might be the person who has a heart attack because their heart was hurting them every time they stress. Maybe this person who has a stomach cancer because they were, you know, stressing and that was affecting. It's like you can cause it mentally in the body to respond negatively, tense, bad energy stored there. Like I said, I've never studied this, but that's my common sense of like, you have to move the stress, you have to move the emotions, because this is just, of course, manage your stress and not cause yourself stress. That's another thing. But when you do have that, you have to deal with it because you cannot just leave it there. It's like dirt or mess that's left there. You don't, because it's going to grow. It's like a mold, you know, it's going to like expand. Yeah,
exactly. And sometimes it's not even about the acute stress that we have now. It's about chronic stress that we have accumulated since childhood. Like that's what I do for work. I go back with people in their minds, in their bodies, to the first events, original childhood traumas that cause them to feel bad right now. So like it's real. The emotions are stored in the body, and you know, working on them and actually going back to these original memories, like, and releasing these emotions that were stored in there. It's like opening up the whole new perspective, because now from the perspective of like, okay, I'm not enough because some teachers at school told me that I'm not good at math, so now I suck. You just kind of lift off this perspective, this filter, and like, okay, I'm actually awesome. Like I'm not feeling unworthy anymore. So yeah, this is really real. And that's why fitness and movement is so important, to just move this energy and be healthy and be free.
yes, it is. So this is so good. I feel like this conversation is going to benefit a lot of people from many different angles. So thank you for having me.
Oh, I am so excited to have you. And I would also love to ask one little last question to you, because I know we're kind of running out of time, but I would love to know, what is the best way that people can find you, like where they can find your content and your programs and things that you're doing, so that maybe if someone wants to explore what you're doing more, they will have it easy.
They can find me. Thank you so much. They can find me anywhere with the same name, Monika A. Mazur. On Instagram, on LinkedIn. My podcast is the Monika A. Mazur podcast. And what else we have? Facebook and LinkedIn and Pinterest, everywhere. Most likely, Instagram is probably the best, and podcast to reach and connect with me. And I'll share those so you can pop them in a show notes as well if you would like that too. But I would love to connect with like-minded folks, especially Polish people, just like you mentioned, who are all over the world, in America and all over the world, who are doing things like yourself and like myself. It's always awesome to increase your network. So love that. Thank you so much for having me.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for this amazing interview. It was awesome. Thank you so much for watching or listening, beautiful friends. It's really great to have you here. I really appreciate it. And if you feel like you need support on your journey with your mindset, or maybe you have some emotions that you need to work through, please contact me. You can text me on theconnectioncatalyst@gmail.com. And if you have any feedback or anything you'd like to share, please also just write me an email, or you can find me on The Connection Catalyst on Instagram. It's my secondary account. My main account you will find in the bio description in there. So thanks again for watching, and I wish you a beautiful day.